want to ask you right now, for the people that are listening, the people that are listening today or in the future, if they don't feel that connection yet, what is the number one thing that you would recommend for them to do?
Number one, without a doubt, would be to carve out 3 minutes a day to sit in stillness with the intention of just being, because there is a part of all of us that just is awareness itself. And that feels really silly at first. Why do I want to sit as awareness? Because you will start to become aware of how the mind works, how the human mind has all these, what I call overlays, the story that will come in and block this pure awareness from which the insights from guides and loved ones arise. Your loved ones across the veil can't speak to you if all the story elements and the overlays are there. So 3 minutes a day to just be and say, I'm going to watch my mind, or alternatively, I'm going to spend these 3 minutes to connect with a certain loved one across the veil. That's a wonderful focus. It's what changed my life when Susan died, was sitting quietly every day without fail and getting quiet with the breath and saying, Susan, reveal yourself to me, and then waiting. And I started noticing how many unproductive thoughts came up, and I'd just let them go because that wasn't Susan. And I'd go back to listening and watching for Susan. And I had no idea that that focus was the key to expanding consciousness and awakening to the presence of so much more than Susan. So I call those 3 minutes the sip of the divine. Sit in peace. You can actually practice it on the gifts page of my website or on YouTube, Sip of the Divine. There are two different formats on my website. One is guided and one's just some music, I think. But it's the commitment to the daily practice will absolutely change your life in just 3 minutes a day. So no excuses that you don't have time.
Oh, I love how simple you've made it for everybody, because when I started in my meditation journey shortly after Kennedy passed, I was overwhelmed at first by it. And I had the misunderstanding that my mind had to be silenced.
That's right.
And you've helped me understand that it's a practice of listening, especially if you're wanting to open up to the connection with your loved ones, because that's how you receive their messages.
That's right.
And if you're
So
listening to oh, go ahead.
yeah, I'd like to change the word listening, and I used it, and that's what we are doing, is listening and noticing. Because we don't want to say, oh, I don't want to have that thought. When you resist what comes up, that drops you out of the open state that is so helpful to receiving and being receptive to the guidance, the insights, the loved ones' messages. So you listen and you notice and you allow it to flow through. Unless it's important, then you engage it.
Yeah. And you can start to feel the difference, or at least that was my journey. Something would kind of pop up and I would go, that didn't come from me.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It just felt very, it kind of sounded like me. It felt like my own thought, but I knew that I hadn't brought that into my awareness. And so then you just kind of open up to that. Where did that come from? And then the next day, maybe there's a little bit more, and you start to get comfortable with your thought versus something above, beyond you popping in.
Yes, I have 6 recordings with hemisync tones embedded in them, and there's a 7th one coming out for the first time in years in August. And hemisync company just sent me the proofs of the booklet that goes with it this morning. So not even an hour ago, I read it, and that is exactly the point of this whole new recording. It's called Trusting the Connection, and that's the point right there, is getting to know that subtle difference between your thoughts and what is coming from spirit, and trusting it.
One thing that I noticed in Always Connected as I was reading it, that you focused on a couple times throughout the book, that I thought it was just so important, and not everyone focuses on that, is how important imagination is, and not closing off to that. Even for me, in the beginning, I felt like I was making up everything in my mind. And I kept feeling the nudge to keep going, even though I thought, what a waste of time. But it was opening up the door. Yeah, because I wasn't closing it off.
My friend Cheryl Page has made a really good point about imagination, that imagination is actually a tool that has two different aspects to it, like a Leatherman tool that has different parts within one tool. There is the imagination part, where that's just something that your personal field is creating. Then there's the imaginal side, where those in higher realms can insert images and thoughts into your mind. They come through exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But how else are your loved ones going to speak to you except using the screen of your mind, the subtle senses? So they use that same sense to get through to you. And it's our task to learn the difference.
Yeah. And also our task to not shut down when we think that it's just our imagination, because in
And
the
that will
beginning
do it.
it might be, but
Yeah,
that evolves as you
that's right.
continue practicing, because it is a practice.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
some people it comes in different stages and it can come quicker for some people, but for me it was a lot of practice.
That's what it is. It's commitment. And people want those bells and whistles every time you sit in the silence. But every time you sit pays off, everybody. And you'll notice it throughout the day, just being more calm, reacting differently to stressors or drama. And you'll say, hey, I'm changing for the better.
Yes. Well, I want to take a moment and ask a question from inside the community. So
Sure.
we had a post where we just opened it up to everyone, and there were a lot of questions that came through for you. So we are
Yes.
just kind of randomly going to select some questions throughout this hour and see what comes through from you and your team.
That sounds great.
All right. This first question comes from Jenny, and it says, if we can't keep promises that we made to our loved ones before they died, do they understand or are they disappointed?
I'd like everybody to feel a moment when you were disappointed. Feel it in your body. Where do you feel that? You feel it. I feel it between the heart and the stomach, and the gut, right there in the heart. Disappointment. Those across the veil don't have bodies. They're not ruled by hormones that are triggered by thoughts. So they don't feel the things the way we do. So they are guided by awareness itself. A long answer to say they understand. They see what leads you to make your decisions. They know your thoughts, and they understand. It's all perceived with love when we don't have these bodies blocking out all the true love that is our true nature.
That's a beautiful response. Thank you.